Hi, this is Stasha-Gae Roberts, nurse practitioner and owner of Compassion Primary Care. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Compassion Primary Care is an integrative practice servicing the Brandon and Tampa areas for individuals 18 years and older. At Compassion Primary Care, we treat you like a person and not a number. Patients are seen virtually or in the comfort of their own homes. So today I will be talking to you about diabetes. Specifically, I am going to be talking to you today about type 2 diabetes. There are several different types of diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, which is usually diagnosed in an earlier age. Individuals lack insulin, so they have to take insulin. There is also gestational diabetes that we see with pregnant women. Some pregnant women develop it and it goes away once they deliver their child. There's type 3 diabetes, which actually has an association between diseases such as Alzheimer's and glaucoma. And then there is even a late onset adult type 1 diabetes. So I am not going to be talking about those today. Specifically, again, we will be talking about type 2 diabetes. So let us talk about some statistics. According to the CDC, the Centers of Disease and Control, 2021 data, approximately 38.4 million people, yes, I said million with an M, of all ages, or 11.6% of the US population, or 1 in 10 people, have diabetes. That is a lot of people. Approximately 8.7 million adults ages 18 years and older actually have diabetes, but they have no idea they have it because they've not had any blood tests to tell them that they do. About 98 million American adults, so more than 1 in 3 people, have prediabetes. More than 8 out of 10 adults with prediabetes are not even aware that they have it. Prediabetes increases the risk of developing type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. The total direct, meaning hospitalizations are usually what they call direct costs, or indirect costs, meaning people are calling out of work, not being productive. For those diagnosed with diabetes, is actually estimated to be $413 billion a year. So again, total direct and indirect costs of those diagnosed with diabetes is estimated to be $413 billion a year. That is a lot of money. Diabetes was listed as the 8th leading cause of death in the United States in 2021. It is the leading cause of blindness for U.S. adults between the ages of 18 to 64. Diabetes increases the risk of cardiovascular complications, which include things such as heart attack and stroke. Chronic kidney disease is often seen in those with diabetes, including end-stage renal disease. So these are individuals that are requiring either dialysis or transplant, blindness, and even death. In the US, we have seen a dramatic increase not only in diabetes, but obesity and abnormal cholesterol. I am going to go through some charts from the CDC that illustrate an increase in obesity over the last few years. So with this chart, what you will see is in the United States, 2011, the light green or green represents a lower incidence of diabetes, while the darker red shows a prevalence of diabetes in those states. So what we will see is over the last few years, there has actually been an increase in the darker red or peacher colors, and there are less states with fewer people who are diagnosed with diabetes. So again, we see 2011, 2013, 2014, and over time what we're seeing is that map is getting darker and darker as far as those dark red or even peach colors. And so this is 2022, where unfortunately the majority of the country is darker red color. So this is a problem, and this is obesity. If we look at diabetes, we actually see the same trend. So over the last several years, we see an increase in the trend of diabetes overall in the United States. So this is a problem, right? This cluster of symptoms is often referred to as metabolic syndrome. So metabolic syndrome can be referred to as insulin resistance or syndrome X. And to be diagnosed with metabolic syndrome, 3 or more of the following need to be present. So a waist circumference greater than 35 inches in women or 40 inches in men, a fasting blood sugar higher than 100 milligrams per deciliter, fasting triglyceride levels higher than 150 milligram per deciliter, fasting high density lipoprotein, which is quote unquote the good cholesterol, of less than 50 milligrams per deciliter for women or less than 40 milligrams per deciliter for men. And then blood pressure higher than 130/85 milligrams per mercury. Again, it cannot be overstated that over the last 20, 30 years, probably longer than that, all of these things have been increasing. Metabolic syndrome, like type 2 diabetes, is more predominant in the West, and it's due to our lifestyle. Being overweight or obese, pre-diabetic, physical inactivity, abnormal cholesterol, a family history of diabetes, having gestational diabetes, and then certain ethnic groups have an increased risk for developing diabetes. However, what you really don't hear most of the time is that most of these risk factors that I just discussed are modifiable, meaning we can change them. So in America, unfortunately, we are digging our own graves with what we eat, with a knife and fork. We eat too much, we don't eat the right foods, and we don't exercise. In regards to type 2 diabetes, genetic is not really as much of an issue as we would like to think, especially in comparison to type 1 diabetes. Unfortunately, many of us learned poor eating habits from other family members, and we carry those things on. But what we've seen is that when we change those habits, our health improves. Diabetes is caused by an abnormal increase in our blood glucose or blood sugar. This is caused by insulin resistance, where our cells are not responding appropriately to insulin any longer. Insulin is normally secreted by the pancreas, and it allows the glucose or the sugar to get into the cell to give us energy. But in type 2 diabetes, this process is no longer working efficiently. So over time, the amount of glucose in our blood increases, and this is what leads to type 2 diabetes. Common symptoms of diabetes can include things such as frequent hunger, frequent thirst, frequent urination, poor wound healing, fatigue, and later, numbness or tingling in the hands or feet are often seen. However, unfortunately, some people, again, are not even aware that they have these symptoms, and so unless they go and have blood work, they're never diagnosed. Diabetes can be diagnosed with a fasting blood sugar or glucose, so 126 milligrams per deciliter or higher on 2 separate occasions is considered diabetes. An A1C above 6.5 or above can also be diagnostic of diabetes, along with symptoms. A fasting glucose in a pre-diabetic patient can range anywhere from 100 to 125 milligrams per deciliter, and an A1C in a pre-diabetic is between 5.7 and 6.4%. On all my patients, I also measure fasting insulin for a more well-rounded picture of diabetes risk, or for those with diabetes, it helps me to see how well we're managing their diabetes or how their diabetes is progressing. I prefer that a fasting insulin be less than 7. Research has shown that those with fasting insulins greater than 7 actually have, again, an increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes or metabolic syndrome. Now, there are several different classes of medications that can be utilized to manage diabetes, and they range from metformin, which is a biguanide, dipeptidyl peptidase 4 or DPP4 inhibitors such as Januvia, Glucagon-like peptide 1 or GLP-1, commonly referred to as Ozempic, is very popular, or dual GLP-1 gastric inhibitory peptide or GIP receptor agonist known as tirzepatide. Sodium glucose cotransporter 2 or SGL2 inhibitors such as Jardiance, sulfonylureas, which include Amaryl, aka glimepiride, and thiazolidinones, TZZs, known as Avandia or Actos, and various forms of insulin. However, as I've mentioned earlier, many, if not of the most common factors that contribute to diabetes are modifiable, meaning you do not have to develop diabetes, or if you have it, you do not have to live the rest of your life with diabetes. That's good news. But it is up to you to make that change. Do you want to live with this disease and the consequence of this disease for the rest of your life? Dietary changes are key. I know no one likes to hear it, but diet is important. We eat too many processed sugars, carbohydrates, and inflammatory foods in the West. And we eat way too much food at one time. A diet that's based on whole foods is best in managing overall health and decreasing the development of diabetes. So increasing non-starchy vegetables, fruits, especially when they're in season, quality proteins and fats is a great way to get started. I know there's a lot of people out there that do keto or paleo, and that's fine, but I think just starting with a basic whole food diet can help a lot of people. In addition, time-restricted eating, meaning we purposely put ourselves on some type of fast. Oh my goodness, yes, not eating throughout the day. So for example, some people do a type of fast where they only eat between 8-hour window. This will vary for each person. Some people fast for longer periods of time. Some people fast for shorter. I would say if you're just starting out, to start fasting for shorter intervals and expand that time. Women, especially premenopausal women, must be careful with prolonged fasts because it can affect our hormones and actually cause the opposite, which is we're trying to lose weight, it can make us gain weight. But various types of intermittent fasting exist. If you are diabetic, though, I would say, especially if you're on insulin, you must be careful with intermittent fasting, and I would do this under the careful supervision of a healthcare clinician. The reason why is because time-restricted eating, especially if you are on insulin, can cause hypoglycemia, which we don't want to do. Time-restricted eating promotes autophagy. And autophagy is a process where the body actually clears damaged or dysfunctional cellular debris from our body, which is a great thing. However, autophagy cannot happen while we're eating. It only occurs during periods of fasting. Another dirty word that we often don't like to talk about is exercise. Exercise is important for proper glucose control, and research has demonstrated that exercise can decrease the risk of diabetes by almost 50%. I'm not going to tell you what kind of exercise to do. I would say find something you like and be consistent with it. Supplements such as B vitamins, zinc, magnesium, chromium, and berberine have all been shown to help with glucose regulation. Also, consuming some kind of soluble fiber in your diet is just overall a good thing to do for your health. It helps with decreasing hunger. It helps with feeding the good bacteria in our gut. It's just an overall good thing to do is to increase our fiber intake. In addition, things like reducing stress, a good night's sleep, at least 7 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep, monitoring your glucose with some kind of continuous glucose monitor, correcting hormonal issues, whether too high or too low, and again, improving your gut microbiome can all have positive effects on our overall glucose regulation. So again, diabetes is not a death sentence, but the question is, what are you going to do with this information that I have just shared with you? Again, the effects on our economy are huge from diabetes. So if you are looking for a clinician that utilizes an integrative approach to decrease the risk of type 2 diabetes or to manage it, please give me a call at 813-669-3084. Again, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And this is Stasha-Gae Roberts, nurse practitioner and owner of Compassion Primary Care. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.